My name is Chelsea, and I am from Carroll County. Was there most of my life with my two younger brothers, and then mom and dad. About this time last year, we were getting ready to kick off a new semester of groups, and I was leading a book called Healing for Damaged Emotions, which you can assume confronts a lot of childhood trauma and how we have carried those beliefs from childhood into adult life. And so as I was preparing curriculum for the group, I realized I can't ask my group members to answer any of these questions if I'm not willing to confront them as well. And my family was always close growing up. We hung out all the time and watched each other's basketball games as a family. But even though I felt like it seemed nice on the outside and my parents didn't blame me for what they were going through, I feel like I still blamed myself for a lot of things. Because my parents got pregnant with me when they were young, they had natural problems because of that. Number one, marriage is hard, but secondly, when you're a teen parent, that brings a lot of stress on as well. And it's because of those problems, I translated that as if they wouldn't have these problems that they're going through if they hadn't have had you so young. So I was to blame for what it was they were going through. And so fast forward to this time last year, I realized, like, oh my gosh, this is what I've based my entire life on when it comes to my walk with God. So I had convinced myself to have this big conversation with my parents, not to shame them or make them feel guilt for what had happened in their marriage, but for me to voice, like, hey, this was an issue for me, and I have now carried it into my adult life, and I want to be freed from that thing. And so 3.5 hours later, it ended with a lot of tears, a lot of yelling, what I perceived as passive aggression, although I don't know if it was true in the moment because I was so emotional. That's what I was experiencing at the time. And so I remember storming out, and then I didn't speak to my family for about 7 months. I struggled with, if God had asked me to do this thing and I'm being obedient to him, then their response is going to be what I expect it to be. But that's not what God promises us. I had been called to do something, and what I had learned over those few months of silence is that my obedience has to be independent of what I believe someone else's reaction is going to be. And I can only feel that confidence when I know who I am. So I got married recently, and I knew I didn't want to go through planning one of the biggest moments of my life without my parents being a part of it. And so they were a really big part of our wedding, and that felt like a huge step forward. And now my parents and I are actively working on a healthier relationship and just how to relate with each other better. But we all know that it's a process. For me to really have peace in these areas of my life, really relationally, I first need to have peace with myself. And I think that stems from, again, just knowing exactly who I am in Jesus. And not just knowing, but believing. Because I think growing up in the church, I've read and I've heard exactly what God believes about me. But connecting that to my emotions in a way that my actions show that, wow, she's a woman who truly knows who she is in Christ. Not because she says she knows it, but by how she lives. So I'm going to allow him to use the gifts that he's given me for what they were intended to be used for. And that's not for my own gratification, but for essentially making him more known to the people in my life.